The third recommendation is violent extremism. Federal agencies with intelligence and security missions, including the Secret Service, should A, move forward with whole of government strategies to combat the threat of violent activity posed by all extremist groups, including white nationalist groups and violent anti government groups, while respecting the civil rights and First Amendment civil liberties of all citizens. And B, review their intelligence sharing protocols to ensure that threat intelligence is properly prioritized and shared with other responsible intelligence and security agencies on a timely basis in order to combat the threat of violent activity targeting legislative institutions, government operations, and minority groups. So here we see the January 6th committee putting federal agencies, intelligence and security agencies on notice. And we will read in the appendices why the committee does this. Because the committee's investigations revealed several lapses in how various federal agencies operated and did not operate, how they did not gather intelligence, how they did not have protocols implemented so that the intelligence coming in about violent threats could be properly assessed. And here the committee says that it is upon these agencies to move forward with strategies to combat the threat of violent activity. It is not Congress's job to refer them formally to do so, but it is Congress's job to make these recommendations after their oversight was concluded, which the committee does here. And as I read these, I want you to remember all of the parts where the media has said that the committee didn't bring up. And the committee does touch up on a lot of those things. What the committee doesn't do is dedicate pages and pages and chapters of its core report to talk about the lapses of security and intelligence, to talk about how social media failed and their duties. Because I believe that the committee rightly understood that the focus of the January 6th committee report was to find out what happened on January 6th and who was responsible for it. And to that extent, I still to this day believe that the January 6th committee report does an excellent job. It did an excellent job given the limitations of time and funding that they had, the pressures that they had to endure, and the controversy that they had to navigate through. And despite that, they got us this report that is stellar in its findings. It's not a complete and comprehensive overview of every aspect of lapse on January 6th and before January 6th, namely, as media has put it many times, mass media and big media like Washington Post, talking about how the January 6th committee failed at their reporting about law enforcement and failed about their social security recommendations. Actually, the committee didn't. The committee made those recommendations. The committee talked about these topics within the chapters. They didn't devote their own chapters for social media and for law enforcement lapses because, first of all, to separate those issues from the pertinent matters and the people who were using social media and the people who were pressuring law enforcement, it would be near impossible to separate them. It would also be repetitive to have to address them separately in a chapter.